So Lindsie Chrisley, Todd Chrisley's daughter, she has sat down to do like a tell-all, her side of the story. And part one came out yesterday. And I got some thoughts because some things don't really make sense to me. So basically, Lindsie brings us back like all the way to the beginning, the first estrangement between her and her father. That was wild. Basically, she dipped because she didn't want to live by his rules. My thing is like, why not just be like, okay, Dad, I don't want to live by your rules. Call me when you're not mad. She literally changed her number and became estranged from her dad for 3 years. That is wild. And the only reason they reconciled is because her grandfather got sick and ended up passing away, so they reconciled. Now, this is where things get really confusing for me because she starts talking about the show. She says she learned of the show when her grandfather was in the hospital and that they were actually supposed to start filming the same month that he passed away. So it seems to me that Todd was already in discussions with the show to film the show, and then once he reconciled with Lindsie, brought her into it as well, right? That's the way that it seems. Either way, she says due to the fact that her grandfather passed away the same month they were supposed to start filming for the pilot, they decided to push it back. So they pushed it back to August 2012. During this time, Lindsie would have been like 4 or 5 months pregnant. She says that before they started filming, production had Zoom meetings with each one of them where the producers would try to get a feel for who you are. She says she had like a couple of them. So essentially, from my understanding, I appeared on like a game show and I had to do like 3 Zoom calls where, yeah, they just kind of ask you like about yourself. What do you like? Your interests? How do you describe yourself? They probably ask like all the kids, you know, how would you describe your dad? Tell us some stories about your dad. How would you describe your personality? Really, so they can get a feel for the entire family. I mean, these are producers that don't know the family. They got to get a feel for who each kid is and their personality so they can put a storyline together, right? Even though it's reality TV, it's still not like 100% reality. So the whole point of these meetings, the Zoom meetings, is essentially a producer is getting a feel for each person so they can write the storyline to play into that person's personality or to write storylines surrounding what that person got going on, right? Well, Lindsie tells us that when they started filming, no one knew that she was pregnant. No one knew that she was married. And I'm like, ma'am, when you had your Zoom meetings with production, why you didn't tell them? That would be like the first thing I'm telling them when I am sitting down with production who's going to be filming a reality TV show surrounding my family. I would be like, yeah, I'm pregnant, going to be having a baby, due this date. I got married around this time. My dad and him don't really get along. I mean, hello, that could be a huge plot. You know, preparing for you to be first-time mom, your dad don't get along with your husband. That could have been huge storyline, right? Which it was. But Lindsie says her dad made her do that. But I'm like, you're a grown woman. And I feel like I've watched Lindsie enough to know, like, if she don't want to do something, she's not going to do it. So I feel like she left that out. Now, maybe her and her dad had that discussion beforehand, like, hey, don't tell them you're pregnant. Don't tell them you're married. We'll film, not say anything, la-di-da-di-da. Because Lindsie claims that when they filmed the pilot, that her dad, Todd, was basically running with the storyline that Lindsie wanted this $1 million wedding, that she was engaged and she wanted this $1 million wedding. And her side of things is that Todd didn't want them to share the fact that she was already married because he hoped that production would give her this big elaborate wedding. Now, Lindsie said on part 1 of this tell-all that what we saw as episode 1, season 1, was the pilot. However, I went and found it and it doesn't make sense because season 1, episode 1, Lindsie already has Jackson. He's like 4 months old. She's married. When Todd introduces his whole family, he's like, my daughter Lindsie, she's married. She's got my grandson who I love so much. So I'm like, that don't make sense. Lindsie said it in her tell-all part 1 like 4 times that what they filmed for the pilot was season 1. And I'm like, nowhere in season 1 was Lindsie engaged and childless, not a mom. You know, I haven't been able to find it. Now, someone did point out that it could have been like the Sizzler. There's something they filmed beforehand. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe that's what it was. However, I'm going to hold Lindsie, who at the time was like 20 years old, accountable. Like, girl, you sat down with production on a Zoom meeting. That was your responsibility to tell them that you were pregnant and already married. If your dad wanted to run with this story that you weren't pregnant and weren't married, but engaged or dating Will, it seems to me like you went right along with that. And she even talked about how Will was upset about it. But you clearly went right along with it. She talks about how her dad told her, don't wear your wedding ring. That way they don't suspect anything. And that Will was very upset about that. But once again, I'm like, girl, you went along with it. You were 20 years old. This is the woman that when she was in college, her dad gave her a job to work around her college schedule. She had 2 cars and a very nice condo. Her dad put her in a condo. She had 2 rides. And all because she couldn't follow, the rules that Todd had. Boys can't stay the night at your house. I don't want you out partying. Because of that, she moved out and become estranged from him for 3 years. You mean to tell me that girl couldn't stand up and say, hey, no, Dad, I'm married and I'm not going to hide that from anybody. I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm literally pregnant. I don't believe it. To me, it doesn't seem like this was a Todd scheme, but maybe even a Lindsie and Todd scheme. You guys leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you guys think?